Welcome back, guys. This is Paul. About to do another review here. Let you guys know that if you've noticed this, I've recently changed the channel's name. I was formerly known as Coffee and Dump. The more I said the name, the more I disliked it. The intention of that name was a play on words, coffee and pocket dumps, and it sounded really catchy when I first said it. And again, the more I said it, the more I saw it, the more I just disliked it. So I went with a more docile name with Coffee and Carry, because that's really what this channel is going to embody for the most part, is EDC items and everyday carry type of videos, and of course, amazing cups of coffee. Today's brew is from a company that is very well known. Let me hit the camera here. It is Gevalia House Blend. This is a medium roast, and this is actually in decaf. I've already drank about a pot of coffee this morning. So the coffee that I made, the second pot of coffee I made was decaf, because there's only so much caffeine that I need to consume on a daily basis, and one pot of caffeinated coffee for me is enough. But Gevalia makes a very, very amazing, smooth cup of coffee, and I enjoy the lighter blends, especially in caffeinated coffee, because most people don't realize that the darker that you roast your coffee beans, the more caffeine that you actually cook out of that. So if you want more caffeine in your cup, you want to go with a lighter roast, light being the most caffeine that you're going to get out of your coffee. When you get into the dark roast, you lose a lot of punch as far as the caffeine content. So enough with the coffee. We will move on. We will move on to the gear. If you've not already figured it out, and if you hadn't read the thumbnail, this is going to be about the Gerber Prybrid. This is actually my go-to pocket knife now. I've had many box cutters in the past, box cutter blades in the past. Not a huge box cutter fan, guys. Let me see if I have any to show you. Yeah, here's one that I've had for many years, and I've carried, and I do like it. And this is up to the Prybrid. This is one of the most substantial box cutters that I have, but I don't like how you have to use a screwdriver to change your blade. That was the biggest gripe that I had with this box cutter. Other than that, it was good, but I just didn't love it. So I'd carry it as an occasional backup blade, or if I knew I needed a box cutter, I would throw this in my pocket, and occasionally I would use it as a money clip, and it worked really well for that. But this box cutter, my wife bought it for me for Father's Day. It has changed my carry significantly. This is in my pocket regardless of anything else or what I'm wearing, whether it's gym shorts, blue jeans, dress slacks for work, whatever I'm wearing, this is in my pocket. This is a staple. I've had this for, well, since Father's Day. I've not went anywhere without it. Just to give you some of the specs on it to make this video official, there's not a whole lot of specs to be had. Your scales here are just a G10, and this is actually in the Urban Gray. They also have an OD Green model, but I particularly like the Urban Gray better. I just oiled this morning, so I've got a little oil on the scales there. So you've got your Urban Gray G10 scales, and they're very substantial G10 scales, and that's part of what makes this knife feel so robust and beefy is these scales. The jimping that you see here, or the grooves that you see in the scales, actually gives you a really good purchase on the box cutter while you're using it. This is just going to be a basic stainless. Gerber doesn't give you, of course, what type of stainless steel they use in the framework of this, because it's really not important, but it is a very robust, very thick piece of stainless steel. And then, of course, you just have your standard replaceable box cutter blades. These are actually Irwins. I like the Irwins a little bit better than some of the other brands. Irwins and Lennox are kind of my go-to for box cutter replacement blades. I have some Stanley as well, but they don't seem to hold up as well, and they tend to tarnish a lot quicker. So I mostly go with Irwins. The way that this works is you extend your blade all the way out, because this is your normal cutting position here, is in that first, you've got close, and then you click it into that first position, and then you click it all the way out to exchange it. Now, if you need to get a little extra reach for whatever it is you're cutting, you're more than able to go all the fully extend this blade. and it is completely secure. You don't lose any security in the fact that you've got it fully extended. So you don't have to worry about losing your blade or it coming out on you. Actually change the blade. You take this little tab here and you kind of lift up on it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you just lift up on it and it takes the tension off of your blade and you can slide it out and replace it. Definitely easier of a process than this one. As far as the other tools that go that you get with this, you'll have your cord cutter, and it does work for that, and it can also double as a seat belt cutter, just because of the nature of its the way that it's made and the way that it's shaped. You could definitely use this for a seatbelt cutter. So some of you EMTs, I was an EMT for a long time, and seatbelt cutters are pretty handy to have on you. And this would definitely work for that. You can strip wire with it. I've done it. It works really well. You've got on this end, and this is actually a wire stripper too. This end just doesn't seem to work as well as that for your heavier gauge with the thicker rubber. You've also got your pry bar on this end. Very functional pry bar. I've used it several times removing some nails just around the house when we're changing the decor around or whatnot, and it's very functional. They've kind of designated these as flathead screwdrivers. This one is easier to use because it does have more of a flat shape to it. This one, not as easy to use. I've used this a time or two opening up some things that have the larger flathead style fixtures, and it works really, really well for that. And then of course you got your bottle opener. Any kind of pocket tool that you're going to buy these days, it comes standard with a bottle opener. It does have your normal Torx bits. I believe these are a size 6, so you can take the scales off if you need to clean it, or if you want to do a little more in-depth job of oiling your slide. I oil it fairly regular because it stays down in my pocket. I work in a lot of water. I'm around a lot of water, so there's a lot of moisture in the field that I work in. I work in the biomedicine, but I do dialysis, so we have water rooms to purify water and all of that. So I'm around a lot of water. So what I tend to do is I'll take some oil, and this is just some standard, keep in the camera, this is just some standard 3-in-1 oil, and I'll drop it down in on that slide, and then I'll fully extend it, and I'll drop some on this end here and then on the back side of it, and I'll just kind of work it just to make sure it stays really smooth and I don't have any rust or anything building up inside of it. I've taken this apart once. Super easy to do, super easy to put back together as long as you keep up with your screws. And as of now, I've had this thing for several months. There was no kind of rust or anything inside of it. So I'm not concerned about whether you'll have a very excessive problem with rust. Again, it is stainless, but I also know how you can get all kind of gunk, and eventually you can get some rust on pretty much any kind of steel. But that's not been the case as of yet. Now, this is just a lanyard that I put on there to make it a little bit easier to pull out of my pocket, because I tend to carry a lot of loose stuff around in the bottom of my pocket. And with this not having a pocket clip, it does make it a little more difficult if you want to use this as your primary carry, because you have to drop it down in your pocket. And for guys like me that are used to using pocket knives with pocket clips, it does make it a little bit more cumbersome to try to get it in and out of your pocket, especially if you don't have something to identify what you're grabbing. So that's why I have this very distinct DNA knot lanyard on it, so I can stick my hand in my pocket, and if I feel that lanyard, I know I've got my knife in my hand and I can pull it out of my pocket. Carryability with this blade. This is one of my favorites. Again, this is a go-to. I don't leave the house without this in my pocket. I very rarely use any other pocket knives. If this is in my pocket, which it always is, this is my go-to. The only time that I've used a larger pocket knife since owning and carrying this is if I'm doing any kind of food prep where I need a larger knife blade, more like this. Anything else, I pretty much gravitate toward the Prybrid. I've not had any issues with it, none whatsoever. It's not giving me any kind of problems, and for the price range that these things go for, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's really difficult to say no to it. My wife picked this up, and she actually got it on sale, I believe, and I think she might have paid $22 roughly out the door at our local academy. I know you can get them for about that price offline. Blade XQ has them. Knife Center has them for that price. I'm not sure the price off of Gerber's website, but you're going to pay a few more dollars just because you're buying it directly from the manufacturer. But if you can find these around the $20 to $25 mark, you're getting a very, very, very good deal, and I wouldn't hesitate to buy one. I would pay more. If I had to replace this and Gerber jacked their prices up to around the $40 mark, I would pay that to replace this if need be, because it is that good of a knife. Again, I've tried several other box cutter options. Everything from your traditional box cutters, which is your standard large box cutters that usually go into a tool belt or something like that. And of course, that's not EDC optionable. They're huge. I've tried the, let's see, what else have I tried? I've tried a Lennox, I've tried Craftsman, I have tried a DeWalt foldable box cutter. Just didn't like them. They felt cheap. They never felt substantial. I tried an Outdoor Edge slide winder. The lock on it, it was automatic. So you push the, I was trying to find it, but I can't find it. I don't know where I have it put. But you push it out, and then you've got this spring lock system on the slide winder that when you push the button, it automatically retracts the blade back in. And it's a safety feature. And it works well for its intended purposes, but you're not going to get any hard use out of it, because anytime you put any kind of pressure on this blade at all, it's going to trigger that safety mechanism, or it did on mine, and it'll retract the blade. So if you're cutting boxes and you don't want your blade exposed, it's a really handy feature, but that's not really suitable for my needs, and it really wasn't practical for me. So the slide winder took a back seat to everything else, and I just never carried it. But this guy, again, has been a game changer for my pocket carry. If I don't carry any other blade, if I'm going to go light and I'm just going to throw something in my pocket, it's going to be this, hands down, every single time. It is that good of a tool. Now, am I saying this is the best pocket tool as far as a box cutter that you're going to get? Maybe not. Am I saying, is this the best bang for your buck on a solid, pocketable, usable box cutter? Absolutely. I've got some buddies, they're big in titanium, and they found several different manufacturers that make box cutters, replaceable blade cutters out of titanium and different metals, and they're really, really nice, and they're really, really fancy, and they look really good in the pocket. But are they going to work any different or any better than this? I just don't see it. I don't think so. And for the price point that they're paying for those models, which there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're on a budget and you just want something to throw in your pocket, you will not go wrong if you buy into this Gerber Prybrid. Now, I also know that they make a Prybrid X that uses the X-Acto blades. I'm not a big X-Acto guy. I don't really have a need for X-Acto blades, not so much that I would need to go out, or I would want to go out and buy that knife. But I'm not going to say that it might not be something that I purchase in the near future if it's anything at all as good as the original full-size Prybrid. Well, all right, guys, that is the short and sweet review of the Gerber Prybrid. If you do not own this, I strongly suggest that you give it a try. I just don't see you being dissatisfied with the function and the quality of this box cutter. It's absolutely fantastic. Again, I'm not a box cutter dude. I've tried several. It just never worked out for me. My wife bought me this one, and it completely changed my mind. This is my go-to. It is in my pocket. If I have on pants with pockets, this is in my pocket. All right, guys. Again, I still haven't come up with a catchy out phrase. If y'all got some suggestions, let me know. But until then, stay safe, enjoy your EDC, drink you some coffee.